We are progressing slowly towards the pitching part, but before that, we would like to hear from the three partners that came together to make this award happen, what went through their minds when it all started. That's why I'd like to invite, once again, Karima Delli. I presented you only by title, but let me tell you that she is also not an average politician. I would like to call her as Doogie Howser of European politics because she's one of the youngest, and yet she was mentioned by Politico last year as the 14th most influential MEP in the European Parliament. So, Madame la Présidente. Joining us is Jean-François Dhinaux, the head of strategy marketing incubators at Via ID. I don't know how you fit all of that into your business card or when you have lunch, but that's all the things you do. And the third partner who's already coming on stage, Joël Hazan, partner and managing director at the Boston Consulting Group. And you are also a fellow at the BCG Henderson Institute, where you focus on mobility of the future. I'm going to maybe take this chair here. Can we have a technician to help us here? And you can actually use the microphone that's on the table. Hi, Karima. Hi. Welcome on stage. I'd like to ask you, where did this idea come from? But you don't have a microphone, so let's see if it's on.
Hello?
Yes.
Yeah. How? After attending many tech events in Europe, with my assistant, I don't know where is he, Grégory Merli, yeah.
Hi, Greg.
Yeah, hi, Grégory.
I know him.
I know. We realized that a lot of entrepreneurs were looking to move their business to United States. And I was very sad, really. That's the reason why, because they did not believe they had a chance to succeed here in Europe. Mm-hmm. And with my team, Emile, Aude, Guillaume, Maggie, Emmanuel, we wanted to prove that Europe is a new opportunity to make the startup dreams come true. That's the reason why I decided to create this prize with BCG and Via ID. And now I'm so grateful that the European Commission and the Parliament, in particular, Violeta Bulc, and in particular, my coordinators in the Transport Committee, who were quick support this concrete initiative. So
that's how it went from an idea into reality.
Yeah.
Okay. And did it live up to your expectations?
Not at all. It succeeded our expectation.
So
really.
It went beyond your expectations.
Yeah. I'm very impressed by the volume, by the quality, by the diversity of application we received from the first edition, really. So, yes, at this moment we are very happy.
You're happy tonight?
Yeah, I'm very happy tonight, but it is the first edition. Okay. I believe we can think about the
many
second.
More.
Yeah, many more, second or third edition.
Will you keep me as your host next year?
I hope.
I hope so too. Okay. Jean-François, I don't know if you have a microphone. Yes. Maybe you can tell us why it was interesting for VID to join this particular prize.
So, does it work?
Is it on?
No. Yes.
Technicians,
so when Karima told us about this project, there was a real strong fit with what we do at VID. VID is an incubator and an accelerator specialized on mobility startups. Mm-hmm. In Europe, in US, and in Asia. So the goal of Karima was just to make those startups to find the new playground. The new playground for them is Europe and not only their countries. And that's an issue that we face every day with the startups that we meet. Europe, if you think in Europe only in your own country is too small, and that's a big difference that we face with the Silicon Valley and other startup nation. When you are strong in your country, it's not enough. So we have to help them to go through Europe and to be as strong as other startups around the world. To accelerate them.
Enjoy the advantages of the 500 million people market of the European Union. Let me ask you a second question about the particularities of the transport sector, because you've seen many startups rise and fall. You follow them, you advise them. What is unique now this evening, particularly to innovation in mobility? Sorry.
Yes, this sector is really special, and this price is really special. We have startups, we have corporate, we have territories and institutions, and it's the way that mobility and
Are we good? Yeah.
It's the way that mobility and transportation goes. You have to mix, you have to connect those different ecosystems to be able to innovate in this ecosystem. Because it's not as usual as a usual startup. It's not a usual innovation for a corporate. You have to mix all those ecosystems to be able to scale them. So we do that every day, and it's the second reason why we are partners with this prize.
So if I understand it correctly, it's the interdisciplinarity of the sector that makes it more challenging, maybe also more interesting. Joël, the Boston Consulting Group as well as VID are going to, as part of the prize for the 4 winners tonight, give mentoring. So I'm not going to ask you how much this usually costs and how much it's worth, but I do want to ask you what's going to be your most valuable advice for the winners. And don't charge us for that.
So I will allow myself 2 advice.
Yes?
I think the first one that will be transversal to any winner we might have tonight will be to be customer obsessed and recognizing that customers are twofold in the mobility market. On one side, you have the consumers, and on the other side, you have the public authorities and especially the cities. On those 2 sides, mobility startups will have to solve for some of the most complex issues that the society is dealing with today. For the cities, congestion, offering access to mobility to different type of population, not creating or not exaggerating inequalities, and making sure we make the most of the public investment we do are the key ambition. And mobility startups need to help with that, because given the size of the problem we are trying to solve, increasing the quality of life and increasing the wealth of all the cities in the world, none of the players will be able to do it alone. And in those ecosystems, startups will need to contribute, even if they are not used, or even if it's not easy, to work in those very complex ecosystems, including public sectors. On the consumer side, I would say it's probably more traditional for the startups, but what we see a lot in the mobility field is that average value proposition fail, above average value proposition pick up very quickly. And so the difference between good and excellent is very critical. So that was for the first advice. The second advice, and I will draw on what Bertrand Piccard very rightly said, which is all technology exists. And I think this applies very well to the mobility industry. And the advice I would give to the startup is, let's not be focused on technology development. There's probably everything out there. Autonomous car exists, electrical car exists, or almost exist. What they need to focus on is bringing the right people at the table, building the right ecosystem, and creating the customer and the consumer value proposition that will make a difference.
Do you think there's any advice you're going to try to give them that they will resist, that will be more difficult for them to accept from you? From your experience, does it happen that you try to push a client in a certain direction and it's not really what they are naturally, intuitively feeling like doing?
Yes. I think today, in this room, we have the chance of having great political leaders, Karima obviously, but not only, that are visionary in the field and willing to help. That's the positive side of the coin. The other side of the coin that I think many of the startups are facing on a day-to-day basis is the difficulty of dealing with regulatory framework, complex and different legal environment from one city to the other and from one country to the other. And I think from the discussions I'm having with many of them, it's not a walk in the park. My advice would be patient. The great leaders we have here, and especially at European level, are doing their job every day to help. It's going to take time, but it's going to come.
And perhaps that's one of the reasons why it's so interesting to have both the European bubble and the tech bubble here under the same roof, so that these kind of conversations can take place.
And that's actually why we wanted to participate in this setup, because I think we have a unique conjunction of forces to make a difference that would not be possible otherwise.
Okay, Jean-François, can I ask you maybe about the criteria, how you put them together for choosing the winners? Because you've already done a lot of work. Tonight we have 10 plus 1. I'll explain what's the one later, but 10 out of almost 500, and I understand correctly. So how did you decide on these criteria?
So we asked the jury to evaluate the different startups on different criteria. The first one was, are they going to be game changer of mobility? Second one is that will they have a sustainable impact in terms of ecological impact? The third one, a social impact, a positive social impact. Do they already have some traction on new mobilities? And also, will they benefit from this prize? Because we want to promote startups that really need to be scaled through Europe. So some of them have already passed this issue, and we will see some of them there. But we want to help really startups that need to be scaled through Europe. And the sixth one was a global feeling about the startups that the jury will finalize to evaluate tonight, because it's also important to have a global feeling.
Okay. I'd like to ask you, Karima, I've noticed that among our startupists, I think there's only one woman. But among the politicians here tonight, there's a very strong female presence. And for me, it goes a bit against the cliche, because we think about the EU as old men in dark suits, and we think about the tech world as being very innovative and progressive and inclusive. What's going on? Is this the time for women in Europe?
I start with a revolution. It's not only digital revolution, it's in the mental revolution. It's a time to change. I believe that we have a lot of women in the transport sector, really, because when you see Violeta, for example, we have a lot of ministers.
We're going to have another commissioner, Bienkowska, is also going to hear tonight.
I don't know where
she... the ministers, because I went over the list of the judges.
We have a lot,
We have the minister Bon, who was supposed to be here and had to cancel, and the Estonian minister, and the Finnish minister. So politics is
yeah, of course, we have
it's a feminine profession these days.
But I believe when you, in the mind, when you talk about transport, it's technical sectors, I believe. But now we have a technical woman can do this job. We are ready, but it's now.
Now is the time.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, maybe a more technical question for you. The competition was open for startups from any member state. Was there a part of Europe that was more represented, that sent more candidates? Did you feel like it was distributed evenly?
So we are proud because we have startups from each countries of Europe. And it was a big issue, a big goal for us to have a startup from all the different countries, because we want this prize to represent Europe. In fact, we have strong presence from France, from UK, from Spain, from Germany, so representing the startup ecosystem. But we have startups from everywhere. And on the 10th finalists, we have startups from different countries too.
Okay. I'm being told that there's a slight change in our program as some of our guests are being held back, although I see the door opening. But meanwhile, as we are almost at the pitching part, let me say a few words about the app and the